time is 6:32. I'll call the work session of the mayor and council to order. First tonight we have economic development commitment statement. I'm going to again ask that we postpone that until our December 12th work session. So that then brings us to Wi-Fi proposals.
As I stated in my update last Friday, I have two meetings this week with VC3 and another vendor, where I will have for you at the next meeting two distinct, clear, complete proposals, which will be for your review and discussion, and that is the difference. Will be the difference between Mike's earlier work was for a system that was on a totally separate circuit. In talking to our vendor and trying to lower the price down, we went away from that concept, and we have a firewall, but we do not have the totally separate circuit and system with a different vendor, but we will have that. We'll have prices on both, and I will bring that back to you at the next meeting, and we'll discuss it. But we've worked down the cost of one. I'll have the exact cost of the other, but they will be, as I'm sure Mike knows, there will be a difference in cost there, quite a lot of difference in cost.
And I realized I went out of order. I should be going over the actual works, the council agenda, but we'll finish the Wi-Fi proposal. And no, I was trying to do two things at once, and that's what happens when I try to multitask. Okay. We'll finish Wi-Fi proposal and then we'll move on. I did call the city of Covington and the city of Conyers. They both have Wi-Fi in their town center areas. They've used Aruba equipment where they have contracted with the manufacturer directly, and Best Network Support as the person to advise them as to what equipment they need. So I was going to throw those names out there as well if anybody wanted to follow up with them, and then ask that this get put back on for our December 12th for council to consider the proposals. Anybody have any questions for that?
Just the date, isn't it 12/10?
Is it 12/10? Maybe I'm backwards.
If she's just taking notes, so.
Yeah,
10th. So ask that it be placed on our December 10th.
And the lower cost system, there don't seem to think there's a problem with data problems.
It's a matter of how, what level of security do you want? It's secure. Other communities have chosen that, but I understand where Mr. Sabag is coming from, and we're going to have two separate proposals. So.
The IT director in the city of Covington, Covington has, they bill some utility, and because of that, they made the decision to go with two separate connections. He said he would not recommend one connection, that you can do it if there's a firewall and a DMZ. I have no idea what DMZ means, but I said if anyone wants to reach out, he was happy to speak to us, or if you wanted to call Aruba equipment to get some proposals as well.
DMZ stands for Demilitarized Zone, and that's a military force. And Tom probably the only one that we maybe dealt with DMZs before. The point of putting a DMZ in has been successful to some extent. It is not always successful. People find ways to use words called spoofings. And if we happen to have billing here to protect, I am not going to go with a simple method, no matter how much cost it is going to be. It is protecting the cities and the citizens, and the last thing I want to do is end up spending a lot of legal battles to be able to justify why we want with the lower cost of $5,000 that some council members seem to really like that. So if the cost of a $5,000 is going to bring us in access, certainly will, but what is the long-range plan? How's that going to look like? So, thank you, Butch, for looking into that.
You bet.
Now we'll flip over to our regular meeting. Tonight we have the rabbi from Temple Beth David. He is the new rabbi there to give us our invitation. I think y'all received the email from Ms. Miller inviting us to his, I don't know what it's called, his induction on the 30th, is that the right word? We have the ROTC, they're setting up as we speak to give the flag, pledge to the flag, and then we have several proclamations. We'll have lots of kids here tonight, so it will be long ceremonial matters, and then we also have Mr. Ewing to give us a sound bites of Snellville. Nothing on tonight's consent agenda. We then have racetrack back on for a second reading. Mr. Davis, you want to give us any updates?
The Reader's Digest version.
Thank you.
You've all gotten the packet, and I'm sure you've read through it and seen everything that's there. We are basically, we've been working with Racetrack, and we've got everything pretty much squared away. They agree with our conditions. We're good to go in that area. We have one thing, when they did cable last time, it was to investigate the stream buffer impacts of the project. And according to our code, I have the ability to authorize impacts if it is necessary for accessing a site. That site's rear entranceway on Oak Street is necessary to the project actually functioning. Once the driveway goes in, it has to go where it's shown on the plan, because GDOT wants it lined up with the driveways across the street. GDOT also added 250 feet of XLD cell lane. So the construction for that is all necessary to make the project go. What they have done is come up with a solution that involves building retaining walls instead of grading out everything. So the impacts are incredibly minimal. They're impacting approximately 4% of the total of all the stream buffers that are on that side. So it's something that we should just go ahead and process through and not have to go through another hearing set.
Do you have questions for Mr. Davis? Thank you. New business, we have consideration action authorize the survey and appraisal of 2686 Springdale Road, that's the old PD.
To proceed with marketing that property, we do need an appraisal and a survey. I have not talked to 3 surveyors and 3 appraisers. I think I put in the item summary, it's probably gonna cost less than $1,500. But I need to get 3 quotes from 3 different ones. Tony's given me a couple of names, so I'm digging to get the vendors in line.
And so we'll ask for a motion authorizing not to exceed 1,500. You're comfortable with that number?
Absolutely.
Next, we have the resolution for the Snellville Public Arts Commission. We discussed this at the last work session to open up from 1 non-resident to 2 non-residents. Anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, I'd like to postpone that. The resolution had several other significant changes that we didn't agree to.
Okay. You can make a motion at the appropriate time.
Okay.
Item number C, mayor's nomination and council's confirmation of Dexter Harrison to the Board of Appeals. You've all familiar with Mr. Harrison, put him up several times for the planning commission, putting him up tonight for the Board of Appeals. Does anyone have any questions about Mr. Harrison? Nomination and confirmation of the Downtown Development Authority appointments. Don Goldsmith is, you have his application, I understand. Mr. Poles' application has not been received. I am, however, going forward with Mr. Poles' nomination tonight, because I understand there's a DDA meeting this week, so.
I'll be asking just with the question.
Mayor's nomination and council's confirmation to the Evermore Improvement District. You have Mr. Dawkins' proposal and application, his resume. He was here last week to speak with some of the council members. Does anyone have any questions or discussions about Mr. Dawkins? The Parks and Recs Board, Mr. Siebert and Mr. Lepides already serve on the Parks and Recs Board. I'll be renominating them for their current posts. And then Mr. Cole, you should receive his application. He is a soccer parent who Lisa was kind enough to find for us that would be interested in serving on the Parks and Recs Board and getting more involved. Does anybody have any questions about Mr. Cole? And then Planning Commission, Mayor Overholzer, I think there were some concerns last time because he was running for the county commissioner. That election is over, so I'm putting him back up for the county commission tonight. Anybody have any questions about Mayor Overholzer? Then the stat board, you should receive the nomination, the letter from the nominating committee, John Richards, and the application, putting up Kirsch Dokia, is that right? Dokia? Whose family runs La Quinta Inn, Alice Snipes, who's been helping volunteer at the farmer's market, and then Gretchen Schultz. Does anybody have any questions about them? Then moving back to our work session agenda, update on refinance of City Hall. Where do we stand?
I'll be glad to. I've kept up with Mr. Camp, and the market has hit a new low. I mean, I can't believe it's gonna go any lower. Interest rates are great. You know, once we have a decision on Lower Johnson Lake Dam, I'm saying move full speed ahead on that. We'll be working on some documents to make sure that we're as far ahead as we can into the process, but it's just, it's the greatest amount of savings that we've had so far on the refinancing, and it just, it's good time. Just hope it holds. But we're just waiting on, if we need some new money, if you all decide on that, then that would be a good time to put it in there.
What's the window?
Excuse me?
What's the window on application and?
We're probably, if we can have some documents ready to go, probably 45 days. And normally it's 60 days to get to a closing on a
Can
bond
we make
issue.
adjustments after the original application?
What's that?
Can we make adjustments after the original application?
No, we've gotta have some numbers in there. We've gotta put some numbers in there, because we've gotta send it and, make sure that everything's rated properly, and so we gotta have that bottom line number.
What would you need from us right now, Butch? Are you asking for direction or asking for an odd or?
Well, now, I'm under the assumption that we are ready to move forward with the refinancing makes sense. Makes more sense now than it did when you all first started discussing it. There's more savings on the table to us because the market has turned in our favor.
Correct.
We're just waiting on, do we want to roll any other dollars in there, or, I thought that's what we were waiting on, just a decision on the day.
Are we gonna,
So,
If you were just looking for, what I understand the estimate on the lower dam, $80,000, you probably got equity in your facilities, already. You could actually fund, the refinance with that contingency amount in it, and if you don't need it, you can always pay the bond, you can always, shoot for a higher amount and then pay it down if you wanted to move forward immediately. And making sure that everybody's on board with the, what's being refinanced. I mean, there has been a lot of discussion about everything that gets put into the pile. I mean, the police station, City Hall, there was a group of things that were put as potential things. Were there loans outstanding, or are we refinancing the whole bundle?
So, that presentation had not been, I thought that presentation was made.
It's
I
been
thought-
talked about, but it's not, but no decision, no actual, here's where we are, we're a dam away from having a number.
Okay. I
who
can,
gave us that presentation?
They did, they were estimating, they were estimating on all
Right,
those things.
right, but
And they-
we are
But
a
like the
damn
police-
decision away from making,
Well, I don't know about the police station we put into it, I didn't know that. This is
Oh,
the first time
it was
hearing about
the
the
senior
pops
center.
that, I thought it was senior center and just City Hall was all, but the,
I tell you,
I'm not saying that the police station shouldn't, but I don't think that we've ever been proposed anything with the police station in it.
I'll have you a presentation, email presentation in 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
We'll get that put, and you'll see all the numbers there on what we've got
And
right
all,
now.
and all the alternatives.
Yes.
And the only other thing we talked about was the property across the street from the police station, and that was talked about.
We talked about, we never included it.
No.
Okay.
Talked about.
Yeah, and, you know, we also, I've got a committee working on, updating the roadway improvements at the hospital. The proposal that Clark Patterson made, and we're, you know, looking at that and talking to the hospital. That may have to be a separate issue, but, that's probably too far down the road.
As close as y'all are to, you know, if you're a damn decision away from getting there, the faster the better. Any destabilization, you know, you're only there when you close with this, and it is a market event, and which is right, it's exceptional.
It sounds like we need to get it done before the inauguration. I mean, this is election fallout here, folks. I mean, so,
Well, it was a good deal when we thought about it first, it's a better deal now. so.
it is. It is.
We just need to see
I
exactly what
I
we're
will,
doing.
I will have that out to you in the next couple of days.
What's, question, the road around East, the hospital?
Yes.
Will that come before planning?
Would that come before planning? Is there any zoning changes in that? I don't think so.
No, it's just a road project.
Yeah, I mean, there's not,
Good for you.
I don't think
It's
there's
an
any reason
existing,
to
it's
go.
an existing right of way, it's modifications to existing roads, it's changing intersections and signalization.
Is it free?
No.
It'll come before council.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
he said-
Just
she
not
said planning.
planning, but
Yeah.
not planning unless there's I think they do have a signage issue that, would go to, the Board of Appeals, so, but anyway.
Growlers.
You like
No, you know what was on the headline today?
Do what?
Snellville growlers.
Well,
It's a new sports team.
I like it.
Seriously, that's-
Give you an update.
Can I get a sample?
Well, I don't know. Not from me. I'm not licensed. The growler ordinance was put together because I had requests from vendors here in the city to establish, to let them have growlers. And we didn't have that in our code. For those of you who don't know, a growler is essentially a refillable, small beer keg. They range anywhere from 24 ounces to like 68 ounces. Essentially, it's like a six-pack of beer. What you can do is go into a dealer, a draft beer store where they might carry, there's one in Roswell that has like 100 different varieties of draft beer, the craft beers, European, and so on. And instead of going in and having to buy like a regular keg, you can take your growlers in, which are these portable kegs, and you can get your six-pack in draft beer form. But we have to have it added to the definitions of allowable sales. And it was brought up to me by at least one person here in the city who wanted to do it because it's in the, I think in the new store in Grayson or Loganville. Grayson new store.
Grayson has one, Loganville's getting one.
Loganville's getting one, Roswell has one, Lawrenceville has one. So our merchants are wanting to be able to offer this service to their clients as well.
Questions?
I know people from here are driving up to Lawrenceville right now to spend their money out there.
So is council okay putting this on our December 10th for a first reading?
We need to get the pricing right with the local, the license pricing, and isn't that additional license cost?
It depends. Some ordinances are an extra fee. Some ordinances just include it in part of their overall fee.
The only thing I request is that we see how Lawrenceville, Loganville, Grayson handle that.
I checked on
Mirror
them,
that.
I checked on them,
Okay.
and they're about 50-50. An add-on of $250 or so, or they don't add on a fee.
But we get the money off of the additional
You
sales.
get, you
and
get
our
all the
business
additional
tax.
sales tax and stuff, which would be way more than $250.
Lisa, Jaguar Management Agreement.
Lisa, basically, I didn't go through it last year, but basically there aren't any changes from.
No, just, other than dates and all of that, there's no big changes. We pretty much ditto last year's agreement, so there's no real big changes.
And I understand there were a couple of issues last year with some sponsorship and.
And I asked, and I'll get with staff about this before we vote on it, the parade is separate from the festival, and so I know there was some concern about the sponsorship money, whether JRM could lay claim to that, so I think there just needs to be some clarification language. When it talks about sponsors, it says festival sponsors, not Snellville Day sponsors, because technically Snellville Days encompasses the whole weekend when there's parade sponsors and there's festival sponsors, and JRM only goes after the festival sponsors, but, that was the clarification language. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns with the contract? So that will go on our December 10th agenda for a vote. Do we need that before then? Do we need that before December 10th, Lisa?
No, they pretty much move forward even when they don't have the contract, so.
Policy on smoking in the park.
Again, that was just, the memo was sent out, it's just, the Parks and Rec Board had already approved that. It's an issue that comes up pretty regularly. We always look at Gwinnett County, so we just saw what they had going on. So basically, all we're doing, because we don't have any way to really enforce it steadfast, we'll just, at certain areas, which would be anywhere where kids would be around, which is the fields, playgrounds, we'll put up signs that designate it as a non-smoking area. And we have to hope that, similar to other parks, patrons will kind of police themselves. It's not unified across the whole board of the park, and parks have done it different ways. They'll designate smoking areas, or they'll say where it's non-smoking. The board kind of elected to go with the non-smoking areas. Down the road, we may designate smoking areas, but right now, it's just gonna be putting up signage at playgrounds, fields, and probably by the bathrooms where the kids come in and out, or where they congregate quite a bit. So that's really all that is.
What would your philosophy be if we did make it the park as a whole? Would you all have a problem with that?
I think it's unenforceable. I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
I think in Norcross tried that. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll go back and double check, but I think Norcross actually tried that within the city, which.
City as a whole?
In essence, would be the same thing, Tammy. You'd be trying the same thing, just on a smaller scale. But I think the enforceability of it is clearly a challenge at best.
Doesn't Gwinnett County have non-smoking in their parks?
They, the way theirs reads, it's basically, it's pretty vague in its facilities. They use the word facilities. It's not even, it's really vague. So yes, they have it, but I'm not sure how they enforce it either. They don't have rangers either. And I know that's really the catch, is that without rangers to stay on it and enforce it, it's basically like putting up a sign and then walking away. And, you know, that's why we were hoping the board kind of chose to pick designated areas, hoping that that's where the parents will be also. And then hopefully they'll help enforce it by just saying to another patron, hey, can you please, go further down or go away from where the kids are.
If it was an ordinance and not a policy, would that give police justification to stop people smoking in the park?
Yep, I think we already have it within 100 feet of any organized activity included in the ordinance as it exists. When we promulgated rules that it's an ordinance violation, and if you violate those rules, I think that's one of those rules.
Can we just verify that? Maybe Lisa, did y'all know what Chief just said?
Yeah, but how often does that get enforced? I mean, that's part of the
I'm
problem.
it's just a question that, did you know that we actually had what appears to be an ordinance that has some type of language to it?
Correct, but we've never put any signs up. I guess that's part of what this was all about,
Okay.
was going through them so that we
So
will
we'll
now.
just put the ordinance
I think
signs
you
up.
should have signs, I
We
think.
could certainly have signs. If we got the verbiage and language already, there's no reason we couldn't put signs up, but it's like 55 on 285. I'd say that's just the goal.
So can we put this on the December 10th work session, and can report back from staff, giving us a copy of the existing ordinance language. And, Lisa, do you have an estimate of how much the signs will cost?
We actually, found some old signs that were never put up, so I may not even have to order.
Just better and better.
Good answer, Lisa, good answer.
I have 3 or 4, so.
Well, if you're asking for something that's not, if there's an additional expense, if we could get those estimates along with the report, that would be good.
If we are going to put the ordinance on it, it will be an additional expense, because these are just
I think
generic,
you gotta cite the ordinance.
right.
Well,
So-
it's a sticker, if we got room on the sign.
Yeah.
We
Gotta
can
do
stick
that.
We can have the sticker, please.
That's right.
Any other questions for Lisa on the smoking ban? Okay. Eric, economic development update.
Mayor, council, I appreciate the opportunity to share a little with you. We've had some milestones last week, as well as I had an opportunity today. The 30th Annual Entrepreneurship Education Forum was held today in Atlanta, and Scott Allen and I were down there and gave a presentation, about 45 minutes, of what is going on in Snellville, as well as our program to educators from around the country, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Others were represented, so they got to hear what's going on. To support that, we got 2 kind of milestones last week. One is I got my first call last week, just out of the blue, from somebody from Canada saying, I've been looking around. I found out that I wanted to come to Atlanta, and I found that Snellville was an entrepreneur-friendly community, and asked me about what was going on in our community to support entrepreneurs, and informed me that he would be entertaining moving here. So we got one. We chatted for about 10 minutes. Did not get any kind of detailed demographic information from him up there, other than he was from Canada looking to come here, which I thought was a great thing. The other milestone we hit last week is we had our first day last week when we had 200 users in one day on our toolbox. So we are getting people using it. Prior to that, we've had kind of fluctuations of just onesies and twosies to 29 users a day. But one day last week, we actually had 200 unique hits on it, which is a really significant thing as well. People are finding out now about what we're doing. As a date, and I know Butch will be sharing more with you, and not to preempt him, but just because I want to make sure you start to think about it, on December 13th, we're working on setting up a meeting with the statewide project managers, and I'll let Butch share more with that, but
That's what I put in the update last Friday. I think that's a step in the right direction for us to reach out and recruit some partners in economic development.
So just to share a little bit about what the presentation was I made today, that's what I put in front of you as a copy of that. And just to highlight a few things, that page, that guy on the top of the back of the front page, that's Tom Zansky. That is what our current entrepreneurs look like now. The gentleman you're looking at there is a short of a billionaire. He hasn't got there yet, but he's short of 30, and he runs a multi-international company that he started in his college years, and it's all about recycling. And he exemplifies, kind of in my mind, and so we put his picture up, what kind of the entrepreneur looks like today. They're interested in social issues, they're interested in making money, and they're not wearing a coat and tie. As a matter of fact, they wear a lot less than a coat and tie, but that's what our entrepreneurs look like today. Some just other pieces to share with you, that phrase below there, each year hundreds of young people move away to attend college, join the military, take a job, and they never return. That is, as we've looked at what Snellville does, and I've heard some of the things that council wants to accomplish of recruiting and attracting and retaining the young people that are here. Entrepreneurship program at the high school level, engaging the students, gives them all those reasons to stay and look back and come back. They found a resourceful, supportive community here as they were growing up, so to speak. Whether they go away or not, the chances are really much better that they come back. So there's some information there about, actually somebody did some research on that in North Carolina. Turn a couple of pages, and you'll see, just to give you some information about it, this green and blue diagram. If you're not aware, and I'll give you the really short Reader's Digest version of it, about 2 years ago, our state legislature identified 16 what they call career pathways that high schools have to entertain. They also added a 17th one for energy. The 16 are part of a 22-state kind of consortium identified, and Georgia added the 17th one, energy. Clay Hunter, when I first started this program over at the high school, South Gwinnett, said, Eric, one of your jobs has to be to make sure that we can actually continue to teach entrepreneurship here in Snellville, and maybe in a larger sense, the Gwinnett County Public Schools. I've met with Jody Reeves, who is the CTAE director for the county. Some of you met her at the award ceremony in January or July. And Gwinnett County is very much behind us. We are partnering with them to try and get an 18th track added for the Gwinnett County Public Schools, which is an entrepreneur track. That's that green bar in the middle. So the Gwinnett County, i.e. supporting what we are doing with South Gwinnett High School and now Brookwood High School, we would be the high schools in the district that would have an entrepreneurship pathway. All students coming into high school in 9th grade are going to be required to choose one of those 17 pathways. So if we can have entrepreneurship being an 18th one that they can choose, again, that just keeps to reinforce our entrepreneurship-friendly and supportive environment, and it gives us what some people in my industry call a youth attraction plan and a youth retention plan, which is ways to keep them here and want them to come back here. So that's what that's all about. That diagram, there's the Snellville Entrepreneur Council diagram in there, our Shark Tank picture in there. And this is a diagram I put in here just to give you a picture. It's something I use as a guiding document for me. The way you keep youth engaged is you do those three things. You equip them, you engage them, and you support them. And as we do things, you will see all of those things. We've invited them to be part of the city's efforts in the town center plan on our Snellville Entrepreneur Council. Mayor's done some engagement with them as well, which fits into that really well. We equip them through our entrepreneurship training at the high school, and then the things we can do to support them in the community also give that. And as a final note, I'll mention on that last page the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce Partnership. Gwinnett won an award recently called an International Excellence Award for Entrepreneurship from IEDC, which is the International Economic Development Council. And while they have not given us a lot of press in their released material, Mark Farmer makes a lot of verbal statement about what we're doing in Snellville was a key piece of why Gwinnett County was awarded that application. So it is helping get our name out there in a broad sense, and we are, as a county and helping as a city and as the county, being recognized for some of the things we're doing. And with that, I'll end my report and entertain any questions if you have them, or appreciate the support we've got so far.
Any questions for Eric? I have two things while I'm thinking of it. Little off topic. Economic development commitment statement. Mr. Brooks had some suggestions to that, and I haven't ever gotten with him on that. Could you see if you could follow up with him on that?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Also, Rob is on the executive board of the GETA, Georgia Engineering Technology Educator Association. They have an annual conference, and we gave them a proposal Saturday about having it here in Snellville. So I'd like to have you sit in on that meeting, see if we can bring that conference with statewide technology teachers.
That'd be great. We've already had a statewide meeting of entrepreneur teachers here in City Hall, actually, so that's...
It'll tie in with the
Yes.
pathways there, because I know Jody's involved in that.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will be adjourned until 7:30.